Someone is running away from something. The guy is running away from the monster who wants to kill him in the bamboo thicket. The guy turns around to see how far he has run and sees the monster swinging his big club at him. But at that moment someone stops him with his blade. 6. It was a young guy who could stop such a blow with one hand. It was probably a golden spirit, and he was handsome. He had some kind of electric talisman, and he put it over the monster's face. Then the monster was pierced by a high voltage current, and the guy at that moment uttered some kind of incantation, and with one blow cut his head in half. And then to finish him off he struck again with another big lightning charge. The monk thanked the guy for saving his life, but he asked him for money. He started to explain on his fingers. Before he could say how much it would cost, he was hit from behind, which threw him away. The young guy with white hair said that it was only a joke, and his name was Li Chun Fong. He was lying in a pool of blood with a swollen cheek, standing behind his master. He said that he still needed money. But instead of money, he received another blow to the chin, after which he expired. A very beautiful temple. The monk explained to the guys that a lot of evil spirits have recently appeared, and they need to destroy them as soon as possible. Gathering strength in his hand, Li Chun received a secret order from the department that looked like oregano. And then the young guy had an idea. Torturing the monk, he says that if it is a royal decree, it should be paid very well. But at that moment Li Chun throws something at his head and hits him clearly between the eyes. Then the guy falls to the floor. The guy is very displeased that they work for free again. But after waiting a while he heard the monk saying that they will receive a large reward for this assignment. After hearing this, it is as if he gained new strength and says that they will quickly cope with it. Master Li Chun pulled the young lad by his clothes, saying that he needs to train more. After the word training, the lad started to cry very hard and asked to be saved. A bird that flew into the temple for some reason started saying not very good words. Under the moonlight, the lad was flying on his enchanted sword, and he read another task for which he could get a reward. With the words, "Reward, I'm coming," he flew off in the direction of the task. The next morning the master went into the apprentice's room and saw that he had escaped through a hole in the wall, and so was very angry. 2 men in sunny weather, on a wagon, talking about some angry god, and they were just heading for this village. But then a young guy flew up to them and said that this god was afraid of his talisman, and immediately started selling his talisman for 10 pieces of silver. He said that it is worth a lot more. But not noticing the stones, the guy falls his sword. But still Vonticom shouts that these guys bought his talismans. Although he was wounded by his own sword, but did not miss the moment to somehow sell this mascot. Not managed to get up young hero, as someone came up to him. Most likely, it was some evil spirit who reacted to the talisman. But as soon as the young guy drew his sword and wanted to use the talisman, this bearded man immediately took him by the leg, and crying he asked that he help him because there were so many sick people in his village. Repay him with all the treasures of the village. His people in the village began to get sick a couple of months ago. At first they thought it was just a common cold because everyone was just coughing. But then things just got worse and worse. Upon walking into the village, the young hero noticed something strange. It was the smell of evil. He put a bowl of water on the table, and then started using his talisman for some kind of spell. After a few seconds the talisman worked on all the bowls, and bringing the bowl to the head he said that it would help. In 1 second, everyone began to spread the bowls in different directions. But after drinking the water one of the settlers began to bleed from the mouth, and the head was surprised. Everyone began to panic. The head began to shout at the young hero, and only the young hero was calm. But then a miracle happened and the man was better. He showed his muscles and told everyone to try this water. And then the head of the village began to thank the main character in tears. And then he was given the treasure of the village. The main character was looking at the treasure lying in bed, and under the moonlight shows us the wing of a large bird. Barely opening his eyes, he does not understand why so much noise. But then somehow he was tied to the cross. He did not understand what happened, and the villagers were angry at him. They said that his medicine worked the other way. And the main character did not understand why it happened, since he really cured them. Therefore, most likely there is an evil spirit in the village. All the locals wanted to burn the main character, while he tried to justify himself. In an unexpected moment for all appeared some dragon. Everyone did not understand what is happening now. Before them stood a beautiful girl and defended her green dragon. At the same moment, the head of the village and his right hand grabbed hold of the girl's legs to save them. They briefly explained the situations that are now happening in the village. After looking at the situation, the girl explained to the head what it could be. And the head of the village began to complain about the main character, saying that he is a liar. The girl asked for more details about this panacea. But while they talked, the main character with the village treasure had already started running. He knew that now the best option to run away. Ao Zhang gave the medicine to the head of the village and immediately ran after the main character. Seeing that he was pursued, the main character began to run even faster. Since the young thief did not want to stop, Ao decided to use her power and almost hit the main character. But he dodged every attack of her. The girl realized that it was not so simple. So she decided to use her secret spell. And in an instant something began to fall from the sky onto the main character, falling right on his face. It was a powerful ray that was hard to escape. The beautiful girl already knew she had won. But as she got closer to the pit, she saw a note that she would never hit him. The main character tried to run as hard as he could, but he never understood why his talisman didn't work. And thinking about it, he couldn't see who was ahead and bumped into someone. The main character began to shout at whoever was standing in his way. It turned out to be a little boy, most likely he was blind. The main character realized that he was wrong and he did not need to shout at him. And soon he gave him his support stick. He saw how the little boy's leg swelled. So he decided to help him with his talisman. After applying the talisman, the boy felt much better. And after thanking him, the main character blushed. The main character took the little boy in his arms and they introduced themselves to each other. The main character's name is Gu Shimin and the main character's name is Lin Xiao. In a moment, the main character realized that something was wrong. The whole village felt bad and the boy somehow stayed healthy. This was the outer area of the village. The boy thanked Lin for taking him back. The main character realized that the boy was healthy, probably because of the distance from the village. But he lives in a very lousy house. Lin took out a rock and began to question the boy with whom he lives here. And before he could finish talking, someone threw a rock through the window. But Lin managed to react and caught the rock with his hand. It was the inhabitants of this village, and they asked that the boy leave them. They thought he had cursed his parents, so they died. The cruel children drew what you are on Gu's house. The main character was furious and wanted to beat them up good. Seeing Lin's angry face, the children immediately ran away. And the protagonist realized how cruel the children were too. But no sooner had he entered the house than he felt someone's presence. Someone attacked him from behind, with wings instead of hands. It was the little spirit of medicine protecting this village. The boy came out of the lodge and said that all was well and he was his friend. But the little spirit did not believe him at first. When they returned to the lodge, all three met. And the little spirit was angry with Lin because of Gu's leg injury. The spirit asked the little boy to stay in the cabin and Lin asked him to go after her. Some obscure fruit popped out of the ground. It was the famous medicine turnip in the village, and there were many of them. Without wasting a minute, Lin and the medicine spirit began to pick the turnip. The spirit began to tell that it only cured Gu. The first time the spirit and Gu met was on a winter day. Well, then Mom and Dad left poor and blind Gu. And the other villagers often mocked the boy because of his blindness. The main character immediately realized that it was about those children. But despite all this, the boy still smiled so brightly. So the spirit decided that she would do anything to give him sight. And the main character agreed with her. After gaining enough turnips, they started to go back. Then he was extremely happy and hugged Yao Yao's spirit. And Lin was also glad that everything ended well. But suddenly some ray hit right behind Lin. It was the same girl who was still looking for him. Lin didn't understand, is the treasure of the village so important? The girl replied that it is not as important as the evil spirit that is here. But the main character said that she was wrong and there is only a little boy here. But the girl called Lin a little boy, saying that he can't tell an ordinary spirit from an evil one. The main character showed the girl the spirit, saying that it is healing. But the girl did not believe and decided to attack at the same second. Lin stood up for the spirit and immediately got himself a lightning shot, but that didn't stop Ao. Noticing the spirit, she made another attack. And at that moment Yao Yao realized that she could die here. A powerful beam was directed towards her. But Lin drew his sword and managed to protect her. With a serious look he asks her to stop. And at that moment the spirit takes the boy and carries him away. And tries to fly away. The spirit says that if Lin helps her she will give him lots of medicine. The girl immediately headed towards the spirit, but Lin stops her. And shouting he asks her to listen to him. But the girl frees her hand. And asks if he knows what this evil spirit has done to the village. And turning his head asks which side he is on. Lin does not know what to answer the girl. Yao Yao brought little Gu into the forest and made some circles. "Do not worry, Gu, I will not hurt you," said the spirit. But still something was bothering the little boy. Yao Yao's spirit began to concentrate all the energy. All this energy was the life energy of the villagers. And now all this energy was going towards Yao Yao. Even the head of the village turned into a mummy in an instant. And her talisman was gathering more and more energy. The spirit was getting stronger and stronger. And something started to appear from under the ground. Some big statues appeared around the little boy. But he still didn't understand what was happening now. The spirit tells Gu that now he can see. But Gu did not understand what she means. The girl as well as the main character, with all the speed to help the little boy. And the spirit has already gathered enough energy. Spirit asks Gu to wait a little longer and he can see. The girl who came first immediately began to attack the spirit of his spells. And the moment the projectile was already near the spirit of Yao Yao. She at the last second repelled it with his pen. She made magic projectiles out of her feathers. And the girl was fully prepared. The little spirit started screaming. Unleashing all her power, she screamed that she was ready to sacrifice the whole world just to cure little Gu. But the girl tells her that it is wrong to sacrifice hundreds of people for one. And for all those people now she will kill her. Swinging her fan, she directed a large water dragon at Yao Yao. But Yao Yao was ready for this. And at the same moment she directed a powerful beam towards the dragon. The spirit beam and the water dragon met, creating a powerful explosion. And eventually the dragon was destroyed. During the collision of the beams, the spirit moved lightning fast behind the girl. And with a light move of the pen, the spirit sent the girl straight into the ground. The girl managed to survive the fall. And immediately wiped the dirt from her face. But no sooner had she rested than the spirit already pointed her feathers at her. And now she is already more like an evil spirit. With the words "die," she pointed all the feathers at the girl. But the hero's sword stopped this attack. But this was not expected, spirit or girl. Pointing his sword at Yao Yao, Lin said that she had already crossed the line. But Yao Yao thought that at least he would understand her. And eventually realized that no one can understand her. And the hero asks if Gu knows about all the sacrifices in the village because of her whim. And at this point, the spirit thinks about it. And the little boy cannot stand it and asks everyone to stop. Gu says he understands how much the spirit loves him and he loves him too. But he asks that she not do it anymore because they can be together anyway. Yao Yao stopped her attack. and there was a sadness in her eyes. And at that moment, something pierced Yao Yao's torso. After that, she was covered by some kind of black aura, and saliva began to flow from her mouth. Lin and Ao were in shock and don't understand what is happening now. And Gu, even without eyes, knew that something bad was happening. The spirit turned into some kind of monster. It feels like this is her real form. And someone in a hood with a red eye says that evil spirits should not live with humans. Then Yao Yao pierces Gu's body with one of his claws. Gu starts coughing up blood. Then Monster throws him off his claw, and Lin manages to catch him. Seeing another opponent, Monster headed towards Lin, but the girl managed to put a barrier. This did not help, and the monster broke through the barrier with only one claw. Then the girl used her fan to catch his paw, and then with some spell, she ripped his claw from his paw and threw him away. But the monster grew a new claw in just a few seconds and was ready to attack again. The girl was surprised by such a fast regeneration. Seeing that the monster is very strong, Lin, along with the boy in his hands, began to run away. And now the girl and the monster were one-on-one. Ao began to concentrate his strength and faith. And the fan began to increase in size. On the big fan appeared Dragon Sign, and the girl was ready to end this fight now. Monster jumped up, and directed his claws towards the girl. It was ready to kill the girl any second. Evil spirit, eat my talisman, shouted a familiar voice. It was Lin who attacked the monster from the air. The talisman started attacking the monster with lasers. And then sealed it into a magic box. It was a special talisman designed by a master. The girl was wondering why it came back. Lin answered that it was all because of Yao Yao. Lin saw the evil spirit cooperate with a human for the first time. Ao didn't expect to hear that. And Lin went on to say that she wasn't an evil spirit. And more importantly, she promised him a big batch of medicine, and so he would save her. Lin gathered all his sword power. And struck a lightning strike at the monster. With one blow he cut off its arm. And the girl knew it was for nothing, as it would grow back. The monster's arm fell to the ground with a crash, and the monster started screaming in pain. Ao warned Lin that monsters regenerate, but Lin only smiled. This technique is called moving cloud, flowing water, because of the speed of the attack. And even though it seems that there was one blow, there were 30. With a short delay, the monster began to feel. All the blows were delivered in an instant on all parts of the body. The monster fell to the ground dead weight. From it came down a lot of smoke. And when the smoke cleared, there was little Yao Yao. Quietly she opened her eyes. And repeated only one phrase, little Gu. Lin came and lifted up Yao Yao. But the girl could not believe that it was over. The statue slowly burned. Together they ran to little Gu. Yao Yao jumped off Lin's hands and first ran to Gu. In an instant, memories returned to her. Memories when she was a monster and pierced little Gu. She was very upset about it. But Lin said not to worry. He put a talisman to keep the blood from spilling out. But at this point, the talisman broke. And Lin did not understand why. Ao said it was because of little Gu cursed because of the attack. Yao Yao slowly began to approach Gu. She was afraid to touch him. Little Gu may have been dying. Hit the ground, drop. It was a drop of tears. Yao Yao did not want Gu to leave her. Yao Yao began to use her power again. And Lin got a little scared because of this. But Ao said that she uses her natural energy to heal. Yao Yao tries to heal Gu without any help from others. Little Gu recovered and started to approach Yao Yao. He wanted to touch her cheek. But his fingers went through. Gu did not understand what was happening and why he could not touch her. Crying, Yao Yao apologizes to the boy. 64. And says that she has to leave. 65. As goodbye, she asks him to forgive her for hurting him. Gu could finally see, but Yao Yao leaves him. Yao Yao would like to look with Gu over the flowers. Would like to walk in a beautiful field. But she completely disappears. And before completely disappearing, she said that she was glad to be with him. Gu could not believe it. Reaching for the featherbed, he fell to the ground. He repeated the name of the spirit over and over, and suddenly it began to rain, but it was unusual. The rain was over the whole village. And when it dripped on the people who were infected, they immediately regained their strength. Their skin color and body itself returned to normal. And in the forest stood that man with the hood. He could not believe what happened. And he took the Yao Yao talisman. Then disappeared. And left behind only a leaf. Lin asked if Gu wanted to go with them. But the boy said he wanted to stay here with a piece of Yao Yao. Lin said if he wanted to get help he could summon him with the talisman. And the girl in return said she would fix his house. She used magic to create a large piece of stone. It does not appear that this stone was gold. Lin began to study the stone in detail. He said that this stone was very expensive. She was going to use it to fix her house. But the girl herself lives in a castle where everything is made from this stone. Lin began to beg and tell her to take it with her to her castle. But the girl refused him and told him to return the village treasure. Gu said that if Ao wanted a cure for hemorrhoids, he could make one. The boy explained that it was the best medicine their village had invented. Lin gave the treasure to Ao and began to laugh, pointing his finger at her. So what? Ao said pessimistically. Then turned around in another direction. Ao said she would go and report everything to the department. The great and beautiful city of Chang'an. The hero took a step. Lin and Ao finally arrived at their destination. In front of them was the open gate to the city of Chang'an. Ao began to complain that they were riding in a hay wagon and now it was all dirty. But then she said she didn't care about that. Lin was surprised at this change of mood. Lin started shouting for Ao to wait for him since she decided to go ahead herself. The hero was taken aback by the beauty of the city. But most of all, he liked the department. Now I'm going to get a lot of money, Lin said, smiling. Lin passed through the barrier without difficulty. He noticed that it was very dark in the department. Not sure where to go, Lin asked Ao to wait for him. He didn't understand why the girl was in such a hurry to go somewhere. Suddenly Lin felt very much afraid. There was a monster above his head, and green saliva flowed from his mouth. The monster attacked Lin with lightning speed, but he managed to get back in time. Lin bounced back a little further to analyze the situation. It was a serpentine monster with big teeth and spikes on its sides. Lin had never seen such a monster before. No sooner had the hero reacted than the monster already crawled behind him in the back. Ao was the monster's target, not the main character. Careful, he's crawling right at you, shouted Lin. But it was too late, the monster had already split the girl in half. And then greedily chewed her bones. Lin was in shock and didn't know what to do. The girl's horns are in the background of the TV showing Lin. Ao forgot to tell Lin about the guardian who now plunged him into an illusion. I wonder what kind of enemy has come to see us, the man said, and startled Ao. It was the deputy headmaster, his name was Tang. Ao asks that Tang help Lin get out of the illusion as he is not a bad person. But Tang wants to watch this battle. Lin holds onto his sword and tries to catch his breath. No matter how hard he tries, he can't hurt him. And if the battle drags on for a long time. Are you scared? Are you terrified? The monster asked in a fearful voice. In the depths of your heart. Whoever you really want to be. Little Lin looks at someone sitting on the ground. It was a warrior man with golden hair and a sword in his hand. He said, "It's so bad you can't become the spirit of the Holy Master," the monster went on to say. And at that moment the mirror cracked. The glass cracked more and more. Ao was surprised that Lin was able to dispel the illusion. But she wasn't the only one, even Tang was surprised by it. The wall behind which Ao and Tang were standing exploded right in front of their eyes, and fragments of rocks flew in their direction. They both bounced back a little and put up protective barriers. "Lin Hao," Ao shouted, hoping Lin would respond. Only smoke was visible at the scene of the battle. The girl had already lost all hope. The tail of that very monster appeared out of the smoke, and there were traces of blood on the floor. It felt as if the girl was a little disappointed. "I'm not weak," Lin shouted, holding the monster by its beard, and he was punching it with his fist right on the Adam's apple. Though the illusion was dispelled, Lin still couldn't calm down. But Lin still heard the girl that it was only an illusion and Ao was fine. "I'm Tang Jan, the deputy director," Tang said, and with that he startled Lin. Ao's pretty girl asks that Tang not do that anymore. Tang was only interested in one thing at this point. "How were you able to get out when the illusion lost its control?" Tang asked, smiling slyly. "Do you want to know?" Lin said in a serious voice. Taking Tang by the shoulder, Lin said it would cost money. And Tang didn't mind. Lin said quietly in his ear, to Tang. "I defeated this monster with my simplest spells. If you want, I'll teach you too," Ling said, laughing loudly. At that moment, Ao punched Lin right in the face with her fist. Ao started beating him up because he decided to lie to the vice principal. A golden talisman with Lin inscribed on it. Lin with a battered face showed the very letter that had been delivered to his master. Tang checked and confirmed that it was indeed a letter from the department. Lin was very pleased because now it was confirmed that he would be able to make some money. He avoided eye contact with Ao. "But first I have to check your level," Tang said. "There are only 3 races in this world. Based on how strong you are equated to one of the 9 ranks. Evil spirits have 4 levels that divide into 3 ranks. And the higher the rank of the evil spirit, the more you will be rewarded for it." Lin had already imagined himself bathed in gold. With this talisman, Tang wants to measure Lin's level. His level is an apprentice, which means he can't be sent on lucrative missions. After hearing this, Lin began to cry so hard that he flooded the entire room. The octopus that was in the water stuck to the girl's chest. Notwithstanding, the girl threw the octopus at Lin. She said that if he wanted, she could give him the money herself. After these words, Lin calmed down and his heart began to beat faster. With the words, "My God, you are my savior," Lin grabbed hold of Ao's leg. Ao pushed him away with her hands, begging him to get away from her. After a couple of slaps, Lin got his way. With a happy smile, Lin went to look around. Some old monk in a white kimono appeared from the shadows. "Sir, what do you think of this?" Tang asked the old man. It was the head director of the department, Yuan Tiangang. Lin did not expect the department to give him a dormitory. As Lin and Ao walked down another corridor, someone was watching them in the shadows. Ao was upset that all Lin was talking about was money. At this point, Lin notices that someone is attacking them from behind. But Ao notices faster and blows the malevolent person away with a wave of water. Her fan burns with a bright turquoise flame. The attacking creature turns out to be some kind of pig. But as soon as she heard that she was called a pig, she immediately began to call names back. But as soon as the pig saw Ao, she fell in love at first sight. Lin explained that it was the mascot of their sect of mages. Lightning struck the pig right in Lin's face, saying that he was the mere animal. The pig's name is Fei and she has a watermelon rind instead of panties. The pig said he had come to give Lin a message from his master. It was an ordinary piece of paper. But then a great fire burst forth from that piece of paper. In the flames of that fire was Master Li Chun. A golden talisman with Ling inscribed on it. As soon as Lin saw his master, he immediately started running away. The master's body was clearer and clearer. And as soon as the fire completely transformed into a copy of the master. The copy said only a few words: "Money, accumulate or not, charity. After these words, Lin turned into a statue. The pig explained to Ao that the master had found Lin's money and was going to send it to charity. Lin began to cry again, so the pig put on his pipe mask. You could still hear Lin screaming from the hotel. He lay on the bed and cried, complaining about his master. Ao wished him a good evening and said goodbye to Lin. I can finally take a shower, said Ao. Someone sits up at night studying papers. It was Tang, as he still had a lot of work to do. The beautiful moon shone over the night city. The next morning, as soon as the sun illuminated the roofs of the houses, Ao kicked in the door behind which Lin was. Ao thought Lin was still asleep, but he was still sitting on the bed, still awake. Ao wondered what Lin was doing sitting on the bed. But she also reported that Tang had given them an assignment for today. As soon as the piggy spotted Ao, she immediately started flying near her. And Lin realized something for himself. I've decided that I'm going to stay at the hotel and not do anything, Lin said in a serious voice. But Ao got tired of listening to him, so she took him by the ponytail and dragged him along. While all three made their way to their destination, Ao explained what kind of mission awaited them. Lin noticed that there was quite a ruckus somewhere. Every few minutes, someone beats a drum. There are fights going on in one of the temple rooms, and you can see two characters from another anime standing in the background. Someone puts a cup of sake or tea on the table. It was the courageous general whose name is Yao Jin Chang. After another victory, champion Wu Zhao shows off his muscles. And the crowd eagerly awaits his prize. The prize was a pill that boosts all body characteristics. Ao was finally able to relax in the bathtub playing with a duck. And the audience was very surprised when they saw the pill. And the champion was bragging about his prize. And Lin was the only one who wasn't interested. Ao went closer to find out more about it. And to keep Lin busy, she gave him one of the gold stones. As soon as Lin received the stone, he said he would do whatever she said. And while Ao was exploring it, Lin went for a walk around the neighborhood. There was no way Ao could get through the crowd that wanted this pill. After circling around a little to the side, Ao saw a champion who was hiding. The champion was counting all that money he got for today. As soon as Ao touched him, he was enveloped in a purple aura. After which he turned into a regular skinny man. He started making excuses that he just wasted a lot of energy in the ring. He confessed that he had used the pill to become so strong, but asked that he not tell anyone. But Ao wasn't interested in that, she just wanted to know about the strength of the pill. The man said that he would show her right now what the strength of the pill was. He popped the pill in his mouth. Then a powerful beam of energy surrounded him. And then, as better to dispel, he was the same one standing in the ring. And said that the pill worked without fail. At that moment, Ao remembered something. She remembered her sister telling her that she wanted to become as strong as Hercules. She was glad she remembered that. Ao realized that she had finally found what her sister so desired. Taking out the magic mirror, Ao said she wanted to get her hands on all the pills. But the man said it was the last one. And that made Ao a little angry. The man said he would try to get more pills for her. At this point, a message was flying to Lin from the department. Pig changed his clothes and she and Lin pretended to be doctors. Lin carefully began to read the message that Tang had sent them. Lin understood that their assignment would fail while the pig tried his best. They tried to reach one of the temples, but they were chased out of there. Lin knew that no one would believe they were doctors. But at one point, a man approached them. "Are you doctors?" asked the man with the buckets on his shoulder. And at that moment Lin realized that someone believed them after all. The man said that his wife was very sick and required urgent medical attention. And she was getting worse and worse every day despite the medicine they were buying. Lin asked what happened after she took that strength pill. The man said that she was full of strength and never got tired. But as soon as she stopped taking them, she got sick right away? Lin asked. And the man confirmed the speculation, saying that she only got worse. Taking the pig by the shoulders, he asks that they cure his wife. While the pig was talking to her husband, Lin began to examine the pill particles. And he seems to have guessed something. The man and Ao went to the store where the pills were sold. The so-called pharmacy was completely filthy. The seller of the pills came out of a small room. He was a bit old and wore a weird beard, and his name was Boss Yao. He immediately noticed Ao and knew he was the right customer. He asked if she needed any medical attention. Ao said she had heard from people that these pills were very powerful. From the magic mirror, jewels began to appear, and she said she wanted to buy all the pills. But Yao said he couldn't sell the pills just because he didn't know the symptoms. Ao said that the pills are not for her, but for her sister who has been weak since birth. These pills. Ao's sister reads a book about different festivals. But she doesn't hold the book, and the book falls right on her face. After picking up the book, she smiles and says it's okay. These pills are for an occasion like this, Ao said sadly. Yao says that unfortunately this pill probably won't work for her, since there is a difference in whether a person is born weak or becomes weak. But, Yao said, shoving his hand in his pocket, I have a pill that will help your sister. It's a Pili rebirth, and it works regardless of the symptoms, Yao said smiling. What are the side effects? Ao asked. 208 Yao replied that they simply don't exist because it's a perfect pill. If you contain the power inside the pill, you will literally be reborn, Yao continued. The man who fought in the arena was looking at the pill very closely. Yao, he said that she could try the pill right there if she doubted and take the second one for her sister. But it was obvious from Yao's eyes that he was up to something. As soon as the man saw the pill in question, he immediately wanted to steal it to get more power. Lin is running somewhere with great speed. He runs to help Ao, thinking that she can't handle it. He thinks she is stupid enough to eat this pill. As soon as he reaches the so-called pharmacy, immediately began to open the door without knocking. As soon as the door opened, Lin began to say that the pills were not real. But all she saw was an empty, abandoned, dusty room. Holding the pill in her hand, Ao said that she was now 100% sure that he was a fraud. But Yao continued to pretend not to know what she was talking about. Ao explained that any medicine has a side effect, especially since this pill also contains poison. Yao was well aware that he was now exposed. But unexpectedly, the man snatches the pill from Ao's hands and immediately throws it into his mouth. He apologizes to Ao, saying that he just wants to get stronger. His muscles begin to grow at an unimaginable rate, so powerful and fast that the clothes the man was wearing began to tear. But Yao alone knew that he shouldn't have taken that pill. And in an instant the man's skin began to tear. His whole body began to be covered in wounds. Looking at the man, Ao realized that he looked like an evil spirit. The apothecary sign on the roof of the building. A powerful wave of power that enveloped the man. The wave was so powerful that it threw Yao and Ao back a few meters. Ao didn't understand why she could feel the aura of an evil spirit from this man, as it was impossible. With one step he crushed the floor, and it cracked. The man with the red eye, who had become an evil spirit, began to attack Ao. He struck a hard blow, after which the whole building began to shake. Even for Ao it was a very hard blow. But luckily she managed to defend herself against it. Ao wanted to ask Yao what the pill was, but he was already dead. And the evil spirit was already preparing for another attack. He struck blow after blow, but Ao successfully dodged them. After dodging another attack, she gathered strength in her hand and struck the spirit directly in the solar plexus. This caused a huge blast wave from which it is unlikely anyone would have survived. But the evil spirit withstood the blow and ended up with only a minor wound in the chest area. Blood was dripping from his mouth, and a strange red smoke was also billowing out. Ao managed to charge her fan with magical energy at that moment. And summoning the dragon, she was ready to fight at full power. The man laughed and said that deities and dragons would never understand ordinary people. Stop the monster, he found the power he dreamed of, so he sees nothing wrong with it. He says that she cannot understand it since she was born in the Golden Palace unlike him. While he was suffering to earn food, she was living in the Golden Palace. Attacking Ao, he says that he needs to be recognized and for that he needs power. Sighing after a long monologue, Ao says the famous phrase, with great power comes great responsibility. And no matter how long it takes, we protect those who are dear to us. But you will never understand that, Ao said, sadly smiling. Early on, the man's body began to bleed. He didn't understand what was happening to him now. In an instant, his body began to sharpen, releasing all the power that was in him. Well, after that, he turned into an ordinary thin man, but the wounds on his body remained. You can tell me more about it when you're in the department, Ao said. But then she noticed something. Looking at her hair, she realized that she had used almost all of her energy. Ao remembered how she used the power of her pearl on her sister. The doctor's turtle began to tell Ao that she couldn't just use her pearl on her sister. Ao said that she would go in search of a cure for her sister, and the pearl would give her time to find it. Ao was well aware of all the risks if she gave her pearl to her sister. Stop talking, I know what I'm doing, Ao said, and left her sister's room. The day was clear without a single cloud. But unfortunately, it was not what Ao was looking for. Ao sent another letter to her dragon palace. In the letter, Ao wrote about a pill that could turn a person into an evil spirit. Lin was reading some piece of paper along with the pig. He realized that Ao had left the place, and the mission had been successfully accomplished. As they were walking away from the place, someone sneaked up on them unnoticed. Some unfamiliar girl, holding a talisman in her hand, said, "I found you." As soon as Lin turned around, he immediately noticed something present. The girl attacked him with the big hammer, but Lin managed to get back. As soon as Lin successfully stopped, he noticed a large bronze hammer hanging above them. The pig told Lin that it was a first-level mascot. And at that moment the girl decided to show her face. She said they were very lucky to dodge her attack, but they won't be so lucky next time. Noticing the lamp at the girl's back, the pig said it was probably from Ntiputua. But Lin didn't even know such a mountain existed. The pig began to tell Lin about the mountain, describing its beauty. The girl was angry that they were talking to each other, and she was ready to strike again. Steering the big hammer, she tries to crush Lin like a cutlet. She doesn't understand why Lin, who also has talismans, doesn't fight her and just runs away. With one of her spells, the girl bifurcated her hammer, and now there are 5 of them. It was as if she and Lin were playing a game of hit the mole with the hammer. This made the girl even angrier. While Lin tried his best to calm her down, Lin tried to explain to her the situation that had happened so recently. But the girl didn't believe a word of it, so she decided to improve her hammer. Now her hammer had a point, so it could split anyone in 2. Realizing that he couldn't calm her down, Lin pulled out his talisman. Lin dropped his talisman, saying it was his best spell. Lin's talisman flew straight at the tip of the sledgehammer. As soon as the sledgehammer and the talisman came into contact, the talisman shattered into small pieces. Lin was very surprised by this. The girl, aware of her superiority, says that Lin has no chance to win it. Girl says Lin is very weak, so he better give up. Lin asks the pig what the talisman is, but the pig says she will tell him about it later as now they have to run urgently. Lin was at the ready to use his earth talisman to escape. But the girl had already fully understood his plan. The girl summoned another talisman, which was like a big bell. People like us can have 2 talismans at once, the girl said, and recited some kind of incantation. In an instant the hammer struck the bell. Then a powerful sound wave came from the bell. It was the sound wave that knocked Lin down. But the problem was that the sound wave was very damaging to his ears. Grabbing his sword, Lin fell to his knees, and he didn't know what to do. Before finishing off the already helpless Lin, the girl explained how her talismans worked. Smiling, the girl says he has no chance of escaping, and she is ready to strike her final blow with the hammer, while Lin could not get up in his lap. Very hard blow. But luckily she managed to defend herself against it. Ao wanted to ask Yao what the pill was, but he was already dead, and the evil spirit was already preparing for another attack. He struck blow after blow, but Ao successfully dodged them. After dodging another attack, she gathered strength in her hand and struck the spirit directly in the solar plexus. This caused a huge blast wave from which it is unlikely anyone would have survived. But the evil spirit withstood the blow and ended up with only a minor wound in the chest area. Blood was dripping from his mouth, and a strange red smoke was also billowing out. Ao managed to charge her fan with magical energy at that moment, and summoning the dragon, she was ready to fight at full power. The man laughed and said that deities and dragons would never understand ordinary people. Stop the monster, he found the power he dreamed of, so he sees nothing wrong with it. He says that she cannot understand it since she was born in the Golden Palace unlike him. While he was suffering to earn food, she was living in the Golden Palace. Attacking Ao, he says that he needs to be recognized and for that he needs power. Sighing after a long monologue, Ao says the famous phrase, with great power comes great responsibility. And no matter how long it takes, we protect those who are dear to us. But you will never understand that, Ao said, sadly smiling. Early on, the man's body began to bleed. He didn't understand what was happening to him now. In an instant, his body began to sharpen, releasing all the power that was in him. Well, after that, he turned into an ordinary thin man, but the wounds on his body remained. You can tell me more about it when you're in the department, Ao said. But then she noticed something. Looking at her hair, she realized that she had used almost all of her energy. Ao remembered how she used the power of her pearl on her sister. The doctor's turtle began to tell Ao that she couldn't just use her pearl on her sister. Ao said that she would go in search of a cure for her sister, and the pearl would give her time to find it. Ao was well aware of all the risks if she gave her pearl to her sister. Stop talking, I know what I'm doing, Ao said, and left her sister's room. The day was clear without a single cloud. But unfortunately, it was not what Ao was looking for. Ao sent another letter to her dragon palace. In the letter, Ao wrote about a pill that could turn a person into an evil spirit. Lin was reading some piece of paper along with the pig. He realized that Ao had left the place, and the mission had been successfully accomplished. As they were walking away from the place, someone sneaked up on them unnoticed. Some unfamiliar girl, holding a talisman in her hand, said, "I found you." As soon as Lin turned around, he immediately noticed something present. The girl attacked him with the big hammer, but Lin managed to get back. As soon as Lin successfully stopped, he noticed a large bronze hammer hanging above them. The pig told Lin that it was a first-level mascot. And at that moment the girl decided to show her face. She said they were very lucky to dodge her attack, but they won't be so lucky next time. Noticing the lamp at the girl's back, the pig said it was probably from Ntiputua. But Lin didn't even know such a mountain existed. The pig began to tell Lin about the mountain, describing its beauty. The girl was angry that they were talking to each other, and she was ready to strike again. Steering the big hammer, she tries to crush Lin like a cutlet. She doesn't understand why Lin, who also has talismans, doesn't fight her and just runs away. With one of her spells, the girl bifurcated her hammer, and now there are 5 of them. It was as if she and Lin were playing a game of hit the mole with the hammer. This made the girl even angrier. while Lin tried his best to calm her down. Lin tried to explain to her the situation that had happened so recently. But the girl didn't believe a word of it, so she decided to improve her hammer. Now her hammer had a point, so it could split anyone in two. Realizing that he couldn't calm her down, Lin pulled out his talisman. Lin dropped his talisman, saying it was his best spell. Lin's talisman flew straight at the tip of the sledgehammer. As soon as the sledgehammer and the talisman came into contact, the talisman shattered into small pieces. Lin was very surprised by this. The girl, aware of her superiority, says that Lin has no chance to win it. Girl says Lin is very weak, so he better give up. Lin asks the pig what the talisman is, but the pig says she will tell him about it later, as now they have to run urgently. Lin was at the ready to use his earth talisman to escape. But the girl had already fully understood his plan. The girl summoned another talisman, which was like a big bell. People like us can have two talismans at once, the girl said, and recited some kind of incantation. In an instant the hammer struck the bell. Then a powerful sound wave came from the bell. It was the sound wave that knocked Lin down. But the problem was that the sound wave was very damaging to his ears. Grabbing his sword, Lin fell to his knees, and he didn't know what to do. Before finishing off the already helpless Lin, the girl explained how her talismans worked. Smiling, the girl says he has no chance of escaping. And she is ready to strike her final blow with the hammer. While Lin could not get up in his lap. The sledgehammer flew straight at Lin's head. Lin was already ready to take the blow. But someone with an umbrella in his hands blocked the blow. It was the first-level mascot Pai Bear. Some girl was running toward the battle and tripped over a stone. After which she fell right on top of the Pai Bear. Lin called her clumsy because she tripped over the only rock in the street. As Lin found out, they just mistook him for a man who pretended to be a doctor and was selling pills. The girls' names were Qinglian and Funyun. Fanyun is very sorry to Lin for this misunderstanding, since it shouldn't have happened. And the pig, at this point, has fallen in love again. But it wasn't enough for Lin to apologize alone. Fanyun put it in her hand in her pocket, said she had some money. Whereupon Lin said he could not accept the money, and would be glad if she would give him her sister's talisman. But Qinglian started screaming at the same second that he was mad, and it would never happen. The talisman, it is a contract between man and spirit. Through the talisman, they transfer the energy to their spirit and in return receive great power in return. Lin began to apologize to Fanyun, as he did not know that. In return, instead of his sister's talisman, Fanyun gave Alan a talisman with which there was no contract yet. And there are only two ways to get power from the contract with the talisman: befriend it, or beat him with a whip and make him do whatever you want. Lin realized that it was pretty easy and had already come up with a plan to enrich himself. But there is one problem: he won't be able to make a contract with more mascots. If you use a talisman too long, or a large number of talismans, they can suck all your energy until you die. Qinglian told Fanyun that she, in vain, would tell a stranger all about their power. Leaving Lin alone, the girls headed for the apothecary. The pig was glad of this, for now they would continue their work. But Lin said that he wanted to check on his own what was going on there, so they would go to the pharmacy, too. Going into the pharmacy, Lin asked what exactly this doctor had done that they were now looking for him. Killed, Qinglian replied in cold blood. Along with his sister, they investigated the village and learned that almost everyone who used the pills died after they stopped taking them. And they also found a magic circle nearby, and Lin remembered something. He had seen the same circle when they fought the evil spirit. Lin began to tell Fan Yun in detail about exactly what had happened then and how they had escaped death. The magical circle, the life energy. It's definitely not just a coincidence, said Qinglian. It is more likely that the doctor was harvesting all the life energy from the people who took this pill. But while Lin was thinking about exactly what was going on here, at that moment Fan Yun, searching through the dirty old pharmacy, found a Shirling bug. The little girl knows too much, said the red haze. I can't let her be here anymore. But at that moment, the red smoke, who was watching the characters, noticed something interesting to him. While everyone was in the pharmacy, Lin asked what the shilling bug was. Fan Yun explained that it is a very rare bug that is used to make different drugs. And someone used a secret technique to create such a pill. As soon as the person swallows it, the bug inside starts to feed on the energy of the person. And then it can turn into a powerful and terrifying monster. The Qinglian says it's too dangerous, so they need to go back to their village and report it. And also someone leaving dropped some kind of fire feather. Fan Yun said that we shouldn't worry about it yet because it's a long process. And at that moment the pig noticed the feather. But if it continues like this, soon they will have to face a very big problem because only the strongest can kill this monster. The pig picked up the feather and carried it to show it to the girls and asked them if they knew anything about it. It was a fiery feather and it is quite rare. It grows only in one area, and that area is not known to everyone. It can only be found in Chanchung Valley and it is very rare. Also in this valley was some kind of solitary cave. In this cave there was a hooded magician who brewed a potion with the addition of pills in which there were small bugs. And on the table there were different spell books. Boss, I did you a little favor, said Firefly, who was heading toward the mage. Fiery turned into a beautiful red-haired girl in armor. It was an evil spirit. She boasted that she had done everything necessary to prevent them from finding them. Who told you to do that? Said the hooded mage in a menacing voice. No one to help my boss, it's a great pleasure for me, replied the evil spirit. And at that moment, it was as if her own spirit began to come out of her mouth. You've done wrong, said the evil mage holding onto her robe. And finally we were shown his appearance. He was a middle-aged man, and he was a master in medicine. He was holding a flaming scythe in his hand. It is said that he was hiding all the time so that no one could interfere with his plans. Squirming in pain, the evil spirit begins to apologize profusely to her boss, saying that she will never do so again. Little stone, the magician says, taking her by the chin with his hand. He whispers in her ear that he only left her because she has a unique talent in medicine. But now with this potion, even the most useless spirits will be useful. And then why should I keep such trash around me? Holding onto her boss's clothes, the evil spirit begins to cry and say that she can fly now and kill those girls. And at this moment Lin and his crew of 2 beautiful girls and a pig in watermelon underpants arrive in the same cave to see what is going on here. Fan Yun smelled the same smell in this cave that she had previously smelled in the drugstore. We can finally catch this doctor, said Qinglian, full of enthusiasm. After analyzing the 2 sisters, Lin asked Fan Yun if they were definitely from the same village since they were very different. Fan Yun noticed something approaching her sister's back. Lin managed to react in time and took Qinglian's hand. After pushing the girl away, he repulsed the enemy's attack with his sword in the same second. At that moment his sword was shrouded in red smoke. Recoiling away and tried to analyze the situation. He threw his torch forward, and the smoke slowly began to disperse, which gave them an opportunity to see what was going on in that smoke. They heard someone's footsteps. And after the smoke cleared even more, they saw a silhouette in a cloak. On her shoulder was a golden shoulder piece in the shape of a monster's head. And then they heard the sound of someone pulling a sword from its sheath. I will kill you all here, said the evil spirit, who was very angry with them. Prepare to die, you fools, and at that moment the spirit's sword shone. She powerfully pushed off the ground in her foot. Without wasting a moment, she began to run toward Lin to kill them all. Lin and the girls who stood behind him were not prepared for such a turn of events. The evil spirit swung his sword powerfully, not sparing his strength. And the sword of the evil spirit turned as if it were a whip that could cut them in half. But Lin and Qinglian successfully repelled this attack. And then there was the sound of two swords crossing. The whip turned into a sword again, and the evil spirit immediately attacked Lin. Lin managed to parry the attack. And if he had not parried it to him, it would have been the same as with the ground in which the sword of the evil spirit hit. Lin jumped back as quickly as possible. After blocking another attack, Lin asks that Qinglian help him with his hammer talisman as soon as possible. But Qinglian can't calm down, so she can't use her talisman. It's all because of the sound that comes from the bug pills. Lin asks that Qinglian hurry up as he can't hold her back that long. Lin gets a little distracted and the evil spirit manages to move to another position. But Lin managed to react and immediately pointed his sword at her. In an instant, the evil spirit evaporated as if it wasn't even there. The evil spirit was already behind Lin's back, and Lin himself was now unable to even lift a finger, let alone make an attack. And then his body began to bleed sharply. His torso was shredded, and it happened so fast that even Lin himself couldn't see it. "Didn't you even notice?" said the evil spirit, smiling. The evil spirit says that the smoke wasn't actually to impair their view of the area. Qinglian went crazy over the sounds the bugs make. The second one was killed because he wasn't careful enough. One was left behind, the one who did not want to join the battle and stood on the sidelines just watching. Fan Yun, meanwhile, was thinking of a plan to defeat the evil spirit in question. And most likely her sword is also poisoned, so it must be avoided. "Don't tell me you're trying to guess what kind of spirit I really am," the evil spirit said, laughing. "But because you're beautiful, I'll give you a little hint. The answer is on me. And now try to guess," continued the evil spirit sneeringly. "What exactly are you talking about?" Fan Yun asked uncertainly, trying to guess the riddle. She noticed a few pearls in her hair. The evil spirit realized that she had guessed, so she called her a clever girl. The evil spirit did not want to kill Fan Yun because she was beautiful and smart too. So she invited her to join in. But Fan Yun did not want to join such evil people, so she tried to stall for time. And the evil spirit smilingly began to talk about what a tough boss she had. As soon as Fan Yun realized there was no more stalling for time, she abruptly refuses the spirit by saying her boss is nothing. After this abrupt reply, the facial expression on the evil spirit's face changed for the worse. But then she abruptly began to laugh, which puzzled Fan Yun. Spirit said that she just wanted to play with her a little more since she is beautiful. "That's why the boss must never see you," the spirit shouted, swinging her sword at Fan Yun. "Lin, her weakness is a sphere inside her body," Fan Yun shouted so that was heard throughout the cave. And at that moment Lin's hand moved. As soon as Lin heard the target, he ran sharply toward the spirit. The evil spirit was in shock and didn't understand what was going on. Muttering some kind of spell, Lin begins to create something. With a sharp movement of his foot, he kicks his sword in the direction of the evil spirit. The sword, engulfed in blue flame, flies straight into the evil spirit's body. When the sword almost reaches its target, Lin says that every student in his village knows the technique. After a few magical moves by Lin, the sword pierces the evil spirit like a sewing needle. The evil spirit begins to sense that something is wrong, for this is not just a sword strike. With this technique, the sword successfully splits the sphere into two parts. After the evil spirit falls to her knees, she cannot understand how Lin was able to move after being poisoned. Fan Yun was very happy as it affected the evil spirit. Smiling, Lin thanked Fan Yun for saving him. And a medical talisman sat on his shoulder. Lin explained that while they were talking, Fan Yun used her talisman to heal him. "Now you are under arrest," Lin said, pointing his sword at her and reading her rights as written in the code of their world. But the evil spirit only began to laugh hysterically. And then her laughter was like the laughter of a psychopath who specifically lost his mind. You really think you found my weakness, said the spirit, and her eyes lit up with bright fire. Lin and Fan Yun didn't understand what was wrong, because they had done everything they could to make her die. The horn on the forearm of the evil spirit began to grow. Now the evil spirit looked as if she had become 10 times stronger than she had been before. She also realized that this would make her boss very angry. Fan Yun noticed that the poison in the smoke was now much stronger than it was before. And she doesn't know if she can help it now. Lin says that his body is standing heavier and heavier and asks that Fan Yun help him. But Fan Yun already uses her talisman, but it doesn't help and doesn't heal from it. The evil spirit smiles cheerfully and is ready to deliver his next blow right now. Lin is well aware that he won't be able to dodge this attack. This poison was chosen by my boss, says the distraught and evil spirit. Stone, comes an angry voice from somewhere in the distance. And the evil spirit was already completely distraught. The red-haired girl turns around and tells her boss that there are only a few seconds left to their death and asks him to wait. The evil boss says that some pawns forced her to show her true appearance and it upsets him. The evil mage collects magic power in his hand. This magic begins to suck the evil spirit right into the place where the magic is concentrated. The heroes are surprised and don't know what their next move will be. The evil magician seals the spirit's words in some kind of magical stone that he held in his hand. Holding the sword firmly in his hand, Lin was ready for another battle with the magician while protecting Fan Yun. But deep in his heart he knew that they couldn't handle it and would most likely die. We are taken back to the department building. Tang scrutinizes the pill Ao brought him. Ao asks if Tang noticed anything strange about the pill she brought him. Tang says that there are only 2 people who could have created it. And it's either Dr. Sim Yao or another dangerous man that everyone shuns. Ao recalls that Lin told her he was going to the place where the pills are made. Tang says she needs to contact Lin very urgently and he has a bad feeling about this. Tang goes on the road and says that this man may possess 4 talismans at once. And he is definitely a master of his craft. The cave in which the heroes are currently located. This mage's name is Wei Yu and he is a master of the 4 talismans.